Good.
Hey, Dan. How's it going, man?
What's up, man?
Good to hear you.
Yeah.
How's life treating you, man? It's been a while.
It's all right. I'm working on some cybersecurity stuff and uh, just bowling and
Nice.
swimming and I'm going to Tahoe tomorrow.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good. Watsonville's the same.
Yeah, I live in Watsonville still. Where are you living?
I'm in Tampa now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, it's good to see you. How you doing, Cliff?
Was that Lake Tahoe you said you're going to?
Yeah.
Oh man, I miss that place so much. Grandfather built a cabin up there in '65, and I lived there from '86 to what 2021.
Oh, you got to get back up there.
I'm in Washington now, in Redmond, so I want to see the orcas and the waterfalls up here for a little bit first.
Okay. Okay.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad you found us, Dan.
Yeah.
People in the free group have been asking me to record these sessions, so I have a little meeting AI recorder in here, just so you guys know, but it says it right there, so should all be aware. Peter, how are you doing, man? Congratulations to you. I think you might be muted, but congratulations nonetheless.
How are you?
Hey there. Hey, man, congrats. You did it.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I don't know if those went to the right spot, but hey.
Yeah, I saw it. That's awesome. Hi, everybody else. James, I don't know if I've seen you on here before. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, this is my first meeting. Nice to meet you as well. Looking forward to it.
Oh, okay, absolutely. Well, I suppose just for your benefit or anybody else who's new, I don't see anyone else who hasn't been on here, but this is just a study group. I'm not a CISSP instructor. A couple of us in the group have passed the exam, but really just an opportunity to connect with other people who are studying for it or who have passed it. So I just like to level set those expectations with new folks.
Right. I was one part of the Professor Messer Discord group. It's kind of similar over there. A bunch of students all trying to get to CISSP or Network Plus, A Plus, all those. And a couple of people that have taken the test give some valuable insight. It's just I learn better this way than just reading and watching YouTube videos. So,
yeah, for sure. These certifications are a grind on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had, I think Peter's probably the 5th or 6th person to pass since we started this group. So that's pretty cool. Peter, want to tell us about it? How'd it go? On Tuesdays.
Well, it definitely helps if you're unemployed because you have all day. Your mind is free to be able to absorb all that material, right? I don't know how anybody can sail through this thing doing a day job. I remember when I was doing my VMware certification, and I did have a day job. By the time you get home and have dinner, there's what, 2 hours left from 7 o'clock maybe till 10 o'clock, 3 hours.
And you're already brain dead.
You're already brain dead from the entire day. Of course, you're no fun with your spouse, and then you're going to try to stick your nose in the book and try to learn this. Like, good luck. That's why it took me forever to get past that one, and I took it twice as well. Except in that time, each exam I remember cost $450. VMware wasn't cheap either. This one is $750. And anybody that hasn't bought insurance for it is out of their mind, in my opinion. You should spend the extra $200, do yourself a favor, and then definitely plan on taking it twice, because the first time, once you get, you do whatever test material you're using to get comfortable with taking tests, however you're gauging yourself. And I was using the iPhone app. Once you get into maybe the 70% range, take the test. Don't wait till you're going to get to it. Just take it. And then that will relieve a lot of the anxiety for you the next time. And you're also going to know really quickly where you're weak and where you're strong, because the test will tell you. And then, in my case, I studied for an extra month after I didn't pass it the first time, focusing on those 4 domains. I think it was 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then I still didn't think I passed it until I got I finished the test, because Chris, if he's on here, really set me up. He said, once you click on question 100, if you know you passed it, you'll pass it at that point. So there I am clicking on question 100, and then I get to question 101, and my heart just sank. Man, I was not a happy camper. So I just about gave up at that point. I was clicking, I think I did 15 more questions after that, but I did them at like Mach speed pace. I was like, yeah, that looks like a B. Boom. That one looks like a C. Boom. That one looks like a B. Maybe a C. Oh, whatever. B. Good.
It was E.
So I smoked through the rest, and I don't know if that's what caused me to pass. I mean, you never know, right? But
That's awesome. Like, what do you think is the most helpful thing for people who haven't taken it, like study strategy wise?
again, one of the most things is taking it twice, and plan on taking it twice. That helped me. It reduced a lot of the anxiety. Second thing was, nothing gets you to be comfortable with taking a test other than testing.
Yeah.
So that app, I think I did most of the testing, the 120 question tests that they have on it. I did just about everything on that app. So
where did you find, where do you think were the most accurate practice questions? Like on what app or what practice bank?
we don't see them, unfortunately, on a day-to-day basis. I haven't seen questions on my first one. They were closer to what we had on the day-to-day, but on the second one, none of them were straightforward, and all of them wanted to twist your mind around. It's kind of like how I posted my question, and then I reworded it purposely for what layer of the OSI model, what protocol did I put on there? I can't remember. DNS works at. And then I put, your choices are layer 6 and 7, layer 3, because it routes through the router, so it has to be going through layer 3 before it comes up to the OSI stack, and layer 7. So it completely takes everything what you know and twists you around, and you're second guessing yourself, going, I thought this was the application layer, but now that I'm seeing these answers, maybe it isn't.
Well,
So
it went through the whole stack, right?
yeah, right. So yeah, right. So technically they're right. Or they sneak in something like I did. It's actually it's layer 4 of the what do you call it? The
TCP model?
The TCP model, right? Which is the DoD model.
Yeah.
And then you're going, and if you didn't read the question and you're trying to hurry for it, maybe you skip the part that says OSI, and then you go, yeah, it's layer 4 of the DoD model, and boom, you just got it wrong. Because it's correct, it is layer 4 of the OSI model, but that's not what they were asking for.
If you ever come across a practiced question bank you feel is really accurate, send it my way, and I'll try to put those up daily.
I sure will. I keep looking for them, but you know what? I haven't seen one.
That's what everyone says. It's really hard to get accurate practice questions. It's just about knowing the content and like theoretically at a theoretical level. Guys, real quick, I have to hop off this. I have a meeting in person at 7 on Tuesdays, so
Sure.
know that. But you guys are all professionals. You can run a study group on your own. I hate to shill anything, but if you can share this group with anybody, it would be a huge help to me. That's the only way it's going to survive if it grows. It does cost me on the back end to run this group financially, and a significant amount of my time goes into it. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it sustainable long term, and it growing is one of the only ways that happens. So that's my piece. I hope you guys have an awesome study group, and if there's anything I can do to be helpful to you, I will do my best. All right.
Sounds great.
Okay. Thanks, Vincent.
So,
peace, guys.
All right. So, Peter.
Yo.
And I'm not trying to one-up you on this.
No, please. We're all friends here. Go for
it. Yes. The $795 for the CISSP or the CISSP or the CISSP, I've learned a third way to pronounce it now, it's an expensive test.
Yeah, it is.
However, back in 2007, I worked with Brian and Brian of INE, Internet Network Experts, that did the CCIE training facilities with Cisco. And Brian Dennis was telling me that, and I believe back then, you have the written, then you have the hands-on, which is an 8-hour test that costs between like $5,000 and $8,000. And he told me on average, it takes people 8 tries before they pass the hands-on. So look how much money that is.
I've only known one CCIE in my entire life, and that kid, when he was in college, did some work for me. I used to, when I was the head of technology at one place for a while, I would get interns from colleges for when I had a short project that I could do that had a definite beginning, definite end, something like that looked like a deliverable. And I would shape these kids to walk them through. This is how a consultant comes in. You get a project. There's a definite beginning. There's going to be a definite deliverable at the end. You can use me for consulting throughout the project, but this is what I expect out of you at the end. Every day you come in there dressed professionally like you would at any customer site. And the cool thing is you get free labor and you get a free project done. So this kid I could tell he was smart. Right after he graduated college, he did his CCNA. Like a year or two later, I remember he did his CCNP, and then a couple more years later, he's got a CCIE. Not too many people are around like that.
And here's the weird thing about Cisco back then is if you got your CCNA, you then had to do the CCNP before you got the CCIE.
Yeah.
However, Brian Dennis went ahead and skipped the first two and went straight for his CCIE.
There's geniuses everywhere, and I would put those people at the genius stage. Me, I've never been that. I've never been that smart. I'm more of a common sense guy. But those people are just on a different level.
Yes, yes. And I enjoyed working with them. But I'll just leave it at that. But working for INE back in 2007 when they were still growing, and I became their IT tech support manager for worldwide, which is 24/7, and their network engineer.
Yeah.
Because I had to sit there and actually when the CCIE candidates came in and said, well, you need to go check this cable. Nope, you need to run this command, and you'll see that the cable's there. So
right. Yeah.
But,
I mean, I'm good at troubleshooting, but I try to do things the easy way. Kind of like, hey, I can't reach a website. Well, instead of flying into a router and doing or a firewall and doing a package capture, why don't you just ask if anybody else can reach the same website?
Yes, and they have websites out there that you can go to and
so
says, is this website up?
Yeah, I mean, there's always two ways to do something: one way, or easy way, or the hard way.
Or Microsoft, there's 3. No.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
If anybody has any questions for me before I forget how I passed this thing, y'all are here for that reason. Please feel free to use me while.
I believe
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah, go for it.
And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. And who's talking?
Paul.
P. Diddy.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, P. Diddy for short. Yeah. Was this your first attempt at it?
This is second, number 2. Yeah,
okay.
I'm not ashamed to say I bullied the first one. I got 4 domains correct, and I've been doing this for 26, 28 years now. I can lose track, so it's not like I don't know networking. But come on, I mean, there's things that I haven't heard of apparently. And I've never worked with fiber other than connecting some switches together using fiber, but that's about it. But these people are asking you questions that are like, wow, like where did this come from?
Well, yeah, they have a plethora or I don't know the word I'm looking for to just kind of stick their hand in and just pull out questions from from wherever. So but what did you notice on this go round as far as the question formatting, were they still trying to hit you with these to try to throw you off track, or was this one a little
Yeah,
bit different?
every question tried to throw you off track. None of the I shouldn't say none. There were a couple straight up questions that you had to know networking, which I appreciated them, because you could easily do a process of elimination. What I did this time that worked for me is they give you a piece of laminate, right, that you can with a marker, right, and you have to turn it in at the end. Okay. Every question that I did from 1 through 100, I would write question 1, A, B, C, D next to it. And what I did was I would read the question once and read the answers. And then the first one that quickly caught my eye that was completely not applicable, I would I would cross out one of those letters. Then I would reread the question sometimes 2 or 3 more times, and I would start doing a process of elimination. And what that allowed me to do was it gave my mind a break that, because like your mind is trying to grapple for concepts. It's always working, right? So this time it allowed me to focus, okay, don't look at D anymore. And then I cross out C. It's like, don't look at those. Just look at A and B, and then try and reread those answers again, reread the question again, look to see for a key word, because there's always one word you're missing, kind of like, what level, at which OSI level is DNS in, except you maybe missed the word OSI. And you and you somehow maybe DOD's on your brain, and then and I've had that happen a few times because you're trying to go fairly quickly. So little words like that you miss. So sometimes you reread the question 3rd or 4th time, but crossing out things that you shouldn't even be looking at frees your mind up to focus on those things that you should be paying attention to. That helped me a lot. And so my whole laminate, there wasn't a blank space on it when I finished.
Well, let me ask you real quick about the laminate, because that's when I tried it the first time. What would you recommend, like memory dumping on the laminate?
I did only 2. I did the ALE calculation.
Oh, okay, the formula.
Yeah, the SLE and ARO equals ALE, that one, and then AV and EF. And what I did is I drew a line under them. So first I wrote object, then I wrote AV times SLE equals, AV times EF equals SLE. And then I put equals right. Yeah. And now I'm getting jumbled them together, but you get the idea. I wrote that. So when I got that question, if it said, well, you own this building. So under object, I put building, and the asset value is 20,000. So immediately under the AV, I put 20K, and I was just basically filling in those blanks underneath it, right? So by the time I got to the end of the line, I was like equals one times the other. Here's my answer. I looked at the answers, like boom, got it. So instead of, because if you just write out the formula, then you got to go looking at the formula where to plug the number in, kind of. I wrote it kind of like I drew a line under them, and I had AV column, everything was in its column. So then as I was reading it, I was just putting them in its spot, and that helped me quite a bit. I think I had one question on calculating symmetric keys. I can't remember now, but that was it. But that was
really only one question in encryption?
That's it.
Oh wow!
Super easy. The asymmetric and symmetric's blindingly easy anyway. For some, I mean, however many people you have -1, times however many people you have divided by 2. So how hard can it be?
So after Sarah Vannon, I have a question.
All right,
go ahead, Sarah Vannon.
Yeah. Congrats, Peter. So my question is, how much time you took for each question?
1.8 minutes.
Okay, is that enough?
Well, yeah, because it takes 90 minutes for half the test, and what I was doing after I was going by, so it's roughly 18 minutes per 10 questions.
Okay.
If I do my math right. Before I took the test, I calculated out based on 160 minutes that you have, 180 minutes that you have, that I wanted to finish the test at exactly 100 questions. And knowing that you're always going to go faster than that because you're going to get the question that you just know it right off the bat, right? So what I was doing is when I started the test, I would write down 180. I would get through the first 10 questions. I would look at the clock, and then I would write down the time that I'm finished that at. I would subtract the time that I started and the time that I got, and I wrote and I circled it, and I had okay. This one we did in 19 minutes, so I know I'm in a 1 minute deficit, right? And then I would go to the next 10 questions, and I would do the same thing. I already had the time I started. I just wrote down the time I finished, subtracted the two, and wrote in a big circle. This section took you 17 minutes. All right. So you know what I mean? So I was gauging myself every 10 questions to make sure that I didn't go too fast because I was going by Chris's recommendation. If you're going to pass this test, you're going to pass it in 100 questions. You don't need to take any more. And honestly, I finished and I had 15 questions to spare, but Chris is obviously a really smart guy, being a developer, and then so he passed. The test said, "Hey, congratulations at 100." Me, it didn't happen. I'm not that smart. I'm just an infrastructure guy. I don't know. My short-term memory really sucks, so I can't memorize stuff. So I had another 10 or 15 questions I threw at the test, but I was going really quick. You know, and I already resigned myself to the fact that odds are I'm not going to pass this test the second time, and I was already contemplating my career choices. You know, and then sure enough, as soon as the end of the test finished, it did not tell me that that I passed or failed. So I walked to the grader, hat in hand, thinking like I totally failed. She didn't look at the printout. She folded it in half, gave it to me. I went to the bathroom. I had it in my pocket. I didn't even look at it, you know. And then I put that down on a counter, and I looked at it and it said, "Congratulations." I'm there like, "No freaking way!" Were my exact words out of my mouth.
So, Peter, thanks for the pep talk. Since I think we're about the same generation part. So my question is, your first test, was it the 2021 or were they both the 2024?
No, they were both 2024s because I finished the ISC2 instructor-led class in April 14th, and I think it flipped like no, in March. I finished it in March, and then April it flipped the test. But there was not enough time for me to study all the material because the instructor-led class was 1 week long, and you're not going to absorb that amount of material by listening to some guy on a video chat yammering away. Here's what you need to know kind of stuff. You need to read all this stuff and let it sink in. So apparently it just didn't sink in for me when I took the test. And then I really had to, reread it again. So my actual books that I have, I read them no less than 3 times because I've got 3 different highlighters underlining all the same things.
Well, no, and you expressing that is something that I'm thinking is like, well, how do I know what's different and what do I, but the 3 different highlighters as you went through it, I think is helpful.
Yeah.
So, because I'm 64 days out right now. And this weekend, I'm probably going to buy Ben Menslow, his wannabe practice tests, and also Luke Ahmed's.
Luke Ahmed's was, I didn't like his videos, unfortunately. But nothing against Luke. It might work for somebody, but I don't like videos. I don't learn anything from them.
And say more of a visual person.
Oh, okay.
That's how it sinks to me. Sitting there reading a dry book, I almost said something worse, but reading a dry book, it's like, yeah, it can be challenging at times.
So the dry book that I read were the books which were the 6th edition from the CISSP class, right? Which are the exact self-study book that CISSP has, and each domain is about that thick because they have 8 domains, right? But unfortunately, what kills those books is they're using ISC2 jargon, and they don't adequately topics this. They don't adequately cover the topics that they test you on, and some things are not covered at all. So what I supplemented with was Destination CISSP, if you ever heard of them.
I have not, but I'm sure it's probably in your little list of what you.
Yep, I did.
Yeah.
It's a great book, and it's written in layman's terms, and it basically fills in the gaps that CISSP itself doesn't cover. So between those two things, that got me over the hump. I can't really credit anything else other than the app and just constantly taking and retaking tests. Oh, one more thing that I forgot to mention. So the 24 hours before the test, actually, this was more like 2 days before, okay? What I did was, and I think this worked for me really well, I took 50 directed questions on each domain. I didn't do the entire domain like I did on the first time I took the test, and I would do 120 then. What I did differently this time was I took 50 directed questions that just focused on each domain.
That's
And
still
I
400
answered,
questions.
yeah, but they were just specific for the domain. And I did my first 2 domains, I got mid 80s. Every other one was in somewhere in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
In the Lens app?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they were, but so I think what helped here was because on the test you're really getting like 10 questions on each domain, right? Because you get 100 questions, they throw out 25, and you get graded on 75. So that's less than 10 questions on each domain, or around there, right? But if you found the testing app and you hit yourself with 50 questions on each domain, and if you can make a 70, then odds are that is good enough, man, to get you over, the top. You don't need to go for 80% because you're doing 50 questions specific to the domain, and each one of these questions are hard.
These questions are is this the first time you're taking it, or you already took it, like a part of your first?
Second time.
Oh, okay. So then you'd be memorized, right? Like probably like mind maybe memorizing those questions.
You can't pass this test by memorization. That's why all the brain dumps that they have,
Okay.
you can throw them out the window. You can't brain dump your way through this like you can through a CCNA or something like that.
And
This
I
is
see
not.
we have a couple other people with their hands raised also.
Yeah.
Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I got it. Like it doesn't matter like how many times you take it,
nope.
right? Yeah.
You can study for the CISSP for 10 years and still not pass it if you just try memorization.
Right. Yeah.
You have to, if you're going to memorize anything, memorize the models that do not apply to the real world.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Anybody?
I was going to ask you on that, Peter. Did you get a lot of the? Because I'm trying to wrap my brains around all the different frameworks and models, capability, maturity models, and the steps within.
Yep.
They all have their different initial steps and what each step does.
Yep.
How much of that did you get?
I got a few. A lot of them gave you very long questions that applied to models, and they were so convoluted that I couldn't even repeat them. I mean, they kept your brain spinning. And somewhere in there, they said, so which step of blase model did this most closely resemble? And by that time, you're like, I don't even know what the question is, and you're asking me for a model that I can't remember. Like I'm doubly screwed here, So, but definitely do yourself a favor, memorize anything that's called a model. Try to commit it to memory. You're going to forget it as soon as you walk out of that place because they're useless. But for a model, they refer to them the Bibas and the Bellas and the Clarks. Know those. Absolutely know those without a drop. Which one reads up and which one writes down or doesn't. Absolutely do that. I did get those. Anything that's called a model, just know it. Those things are those were my weak points. So I finally said, all right, anything that's going to be a model, I'm going to try to stick in the memory. Now you can't, because how many models out there are? I mean, there are a lot, and there's like 5 or 7 steps on each model.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
and so, I mean, and you try to give acronyms to some of these things, and then good luck with that. I don't know what you can do to make yourself remember. Stab yourself anytime that you say it. So to try to, there's got to be a way.
Yeah.
I even read how to memorize stuff to try to do it how I did it in my college days. You know, the only thing that works for me is rewriting something 10 times.
Yeah.
Because somewhere there's a connection between my right hand when I write something and my brain. That is the only thing that's ever worked for me.
One more quick question. Did you find that, and if anyone else knows this, because at least a couple of the answers will be closely correct, one more than the other. Did you find that, or did you come to a conclusion that maybe if you didn't get the absolute correct one, that they gave you partial credit for the second best?
That's a funny one.
From what I've heard from other instructors that have had their CISSP for quite a while, is it's either right or wrong.
Oh, really?
But ISC Square will not divulge whether you get partial or, so it's like it's a guess. It's a crapshoot.
I hope these guys didn't give me a pass because they felt sorry for me and they figured I really don't, because that's not doing me any kind of, that's not giving me any help by putting me out there to give advice to an employer or a customer by telling them to do something because I shouldn't have passed when I did. I hope they didn't do that.
No, I don't think they do that. But being the way the questions are, you have like an absolute best answer, and then you have a second level question that's also correct, but it might not be the best.
Yeah.
You know,
they're all correct in this case.
okay.
You can easily weed out at least one of them, which is how I gave my mind a break by when I read the question the first time, and then I wrote the number and A, B, C, and D, and I just crossed one of them out. And then I reread it again, sometimes 2 or 3 times. See, the first time I took this test, I was going for time. I was trying to shoot for 150 questions, which is impossible because, I mean, you're reading things that you can't even understand. Knowing the material is one thing. Trying to figure out what exactly is that they're asking for with some of these convoluted questions is a whole something different. And a lot of these questions are not based in the real world. I know that's shocking to a lot of people. You're going to get questions that the only one that could have written them was Freud, if Freud was still alive. Because it just doesn't, you know, it doesn't apply to reality itself, you know, and then they're giving you 4 questions or 4 answers based on a question that you don't understand. And what you're trying to do is get inside the question and try to figure out the question, and then to kind of like figure out which of those answers best fits to that question. But there were questions that I didn't even understand. I mean, they were really that weird.
Yeah, that was the biggest problem for me first time. I took a lot of time, like, you know, not even completing, like, you know, 110 questions the first time. So that took like a lot of time for me to understand the whole questions, because I don't know what's going on. Because the question is 3-4 lines, but the answer is also lengthy.
So Ani, thanks for being so patient.
Especially the governance, for vulnerability, all those like stuff are like keep on coming.
And you know what? This is why I think wherever I read this, the person was correct, because they said they will not give you a question that's based in the real world. And then you're trying to use everything that you've learned and all your past experience of working in the technology field to try to figure it out, and then figure out not just the question, but to figure out which of the concepts in the answers most best fit the question. That's the only way I can explain it. Anybody that just graduated college that's trying to do this because they're great at memorizing things is sunk. You don't have to worry about passing somebody on the day. They don't stand a chance. You know how much troubleshooting you have to do, you know, to be able to even have a chance at this. And I've done a lot of troubleshooting. You know.
It's Peter. I just had a quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
I was just really focused on the materials that you used.
Okay.
If you could just probably just go over them again. You mentioned Destination CISSP and
The Destination CISSP I rate very highly because it breaks down the jargon of ISC2 in a way that anybody can understand. Okay, so I rate them probably the highest from everything I've read, and I read a few. And then the other one is I have the self-study guide for CISSP.
Okay.
So I rate that higher than the instructor material. They gave me these books. You know, like one is about 120 pages for each section, and I thought because I spent $2,500 on the course that they were going to basically give me the answers and I could just highlight them and be done with this, right? Kind of like thanks for buying our certification course. We're going to give you the answers because you spent the money, as opposed to somebody that maybe didn't do that, right? Wrong answer. They were, I don't want to say they were worthless, but I don't weigh them very much. I would recommend getting the self-study ISC2 book and the Destination CISSP, and between reading both of those, I would like read one section of the ISC2 book and then read the same section of the Destination CISSP, and they will answer everything that you need to know for each section, and then do the next section. And then at the same time, when you do the section, give yourself a directed test from the app, like 50 questions that are directed for that section, and that will give you a flavor for how well you understand that section. And then just move on to the next one.
Yeah, what app are you referring to? If you don't mind?
There's only one. It's made by ISC2.
Okay. Is it the one that comes with the material?
It doesn't come with any material.
Learn the app.
Learns the app, yeah.
The official study guide by Mike Chappell, is that the one you're talking about?
If it's written by it is Mike Chappell now that I'm seeing his name there. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So I had another question regarding you mentioned that you had some training done with the IC Square instructor. I was wondering, did you find it useful, or did you think that if you had studied by yourself without the instructor-led boot camp, you would have still passed? Like, what did you think of the instructor lesson? Did he give you any help or direction?
I took no. The answer is no. I think I should have saved myself some money and just bought the books.
I thought as much.
I knew one person before that had the CISSP, and I wanted them to tell me if I should take the instructor-led class, but the person, I couldn't get a hold of them, unfortunately, because so I had nobody to ask, and I it's like, I didn't really understand at that time what a CISSP was. I knew it was well sought after certification for security, but I didn't know anything about it past that. So I didn't know how much of it was management directed, what your point of view should be to solving these problems, and how much real industry knowledge you need to have to complement that. I knew nothing of that. I approached it straight as a technician and tried to pass the test. But I would not have taken the instructor-led class at all. Yeah, just teach yourself. If you have any experience in the technology world, you can teach yourself. You don't need a $2,500 class to do that.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even thinking. I always like to self-study, so
yeah. It was a waste. It was a waste of money for me.
Okay. No, congrats again, and
thank you.
I'm sure you're super excited. I honestly can't wait to. I mean, I've been procrastinating this for years because I'm in the security space, and probably done and attempted every other security exam, and
good for you.
CISSP, I just keep procrastinating. So
the fastest way to do it is to become unemployed and focus on it. Quit your day job.
No, thank you.
Peter, another question. Between the first attempt that you took in this exam, did you get a feel that maybe they changed it up from your first attempt to focus on other items than that you may have gotten the first time around?
No, I think they made it purposely harder for me because they saw my name light up. And, oh, here's the guy who took the test.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking if they figured, okay, well, you're exposed to these questions on the first exam. Let's
They already know you're good in these areas.
They saw me coming again, and they hammered me the second time. This was not like the first. If I could have the exact same test with the exact same level of questions on my second test, I would have smoked this thing.
Right.
At this point, I did not get that. My questions were, I don't know, at least 40 to 50% more difficult.
Okay.
I mean, they were hard. I thought, I approached this test from the first question, thinking to myself, I am going to smash this test. And my first question brought me to my knees. And it just went downhill from there. So by the time I got to the 50th question, I was like, I'm done. I didn't give up yet, but things were looking good for the home team.
So you mentioned 1.8 minutes per question. Did you stick to that? Like if you didn't get the answer, you just guessed and moved on?
No, I didn't. I gave myself. I slowed down the test. Yeah, I gave myself. 18 minutes per 10 questions. I think that's the pace, right? 1.8 per question is a good pace, because that throws you at about 100 questions at the end of the exam. And I was going by Chris's recommendation that the screen will just light up and tell you when you submit question 100 that you passed. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for me, and I had like enough 10 or 15 questions left in time wise, so I just started hitting, B, C. I was going much faster for the remaining questions. I just wanted this thing to be over with. If there was lucky for me, there was no button to end the test, because I was looking for that button. It had that button been there, who knows? We may not be talking right now, because I would have not been. I wouldn't have passed. So did I need those extra questions to get myself over the top? I don't know. The funny thing is, everybody always tells you, if you studied, what's the passing grade for the test? Well, 70. Well, so that means any effort that you put in past 70 is wasted effort, right? So I think I put in exactly the amount of effort.
Gotcha. Congratulations again, man.
Yeah. One thing, I got whatever funded to go through a training course and get the test taken. And one thing that they promised was, if I'm still studying, when the new material came out, they would go ahead and give me the new material. Well, 2024 came out. I reached out to them, and they're like, well, just two of the domains, one's increased by 1%, the other one's decreased by 1%. And I thought, all right, well, and they said everything else is pretty much the same. And it's like, however, going through the study group and through some of the other study groups that I've been a part of, and learning things like white box, white hat, then they turned it into clear box, clear hat, because you can't see through milk. And now they're using crystal, just learning these new words. And then also in the 2021, they use IaaS, PaaS, and application as a service. And it's like, I'm sitting there going, it's like, well, they have all these other things like this out there, but I stayed quiet. And then again, coming back to study groups and stuff like this, and hearing all these new terminology, finally last week I reached out to Mike Chappell himself, and I said, hey, this is what's going on, and here's some new terminology I'm hearing, this stuff like this. And I said, and yeah, his opinion may be biased since he wrote the books, but I said, is there that much of a difference that I really need the 2024 10th edition or whatever edition it is? And he wrote back saying, yeah, you definitely need it, because so much has changed, some of the terminology, the technology. So today I sent off a really colorful letter along with what Mike Chappell said, and saying, hey, you guys need to cough up and get me this new material, because I'm 4 days out from taking my test. So
you touched on a couple of things, and I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention as well. If this test called things by their real name, this would be a fairly easy test. So a door, I can write somebody a quick directions or even a test for how to walk through a door, right? You see a big square object, there's a round knob on it, you twist it, you pull it towards you, causing the door to open, right? So if they called a door and a doorknob a doorknob, it would be very easy. But they don't call these things by their real name on the test. They do the same thing.
Self-locking mechanism.
A square mechanism that, right, exactly, that exactly. So doors becomes a square mechanism for egressing the building. And you're going like, well, yeah, I'll give you another example because this is straight from their book. And you tell me what this is. Okay, this is a trick question, but this acronym can be applied to 3 interrelated elements: a service, a physical server, and a network protocol. Anybody know what that is?
I'm sorry, ask the question again, please.
Welcome to the test. This acronym can be applied to 3 interrelated elements: a service, a physical server, and a network protocol.
Mac?
No, but you're warm. Maybe not a Mac. No, you're really not that warm. You're sort of kind of cold. You know what I mean?
So is this a multiple choice? Do you have the answers?
It's a multiple choice. Yeah. One of the choices is FCOE. The other one is a circuit switch network. Third one is a bounded network or DNS.
DNS.
Okay.
That's what I would go with because, yeah.
Well, that's how this.
Guessing.
That's how this entire. Think of this entire exam as going like that.
Gotcha.
Except it's not going to say DNS. The actual answers are going to be also twisted away to make you think like, okay, I think they're asking about DNS, but none of these answers are like that.
What translates the IP address?
So if you can mess around with not saying DNS, but I don't know how else you can describe it. So if you take the question and twist it, and you take the answer and twist it, there's your exam. That's what you're going to be looking at.
Well, that's a good question for me to pose a question to you, Peter, again. In that question, if you notice, they said which acronym. I think DNS was the only acronym.
Okay.
But that's not why I chose it. I chose it because pretty much I knew it. But like from the first exam, I would look for keywords like that as well. If they said which acronym and then they spell out everything and then there's only one acronym, then I'll look at it closer. I'll be like, well, this is the only acronym. I wonder if this is it. Stuff like that.
I don't want to scare anybody, but again, at the end of the day, knowing what's in both those books that I mentioned, the ISC2 book and the Destination CISSP, if you've gone through both those books and done the app tests, and you can score 70s, just go ahead and take the first iteration of the test. You might either pass it or you might come really darn close to passing it. And then the test will rate you on which your domains you're strong at and which ones you're weak at. And then you know what to fix, and then you take it the second time and odds are you'll pass it. If I can pass it, anybody else can pass it too.
So I just got the new material for the 2024 and it's quite bulky. So I just wanted to let you know, Cliff, if you had, I don't know if you said 64 days, because I ordered it before it was released. So I kind of got it like 2 weeks ago or so. It's really bulky. It's kind of bigger than the prior material.
The other book that I was reading is this one. You see how thick this book is?
Yeah.
This one has a lot of concepts in it.
No, this is bigger than this is bigger than the 2024 release. So just wanted to put that up for your awareness.
Okay.
I remember back in the early 2000s, I purchased a book on just the networking and telecommunication acronyms, and it was that big of a book.
Anybody that can write this is I don't know. There's people alive that can. I don't know how anybody can. This can't be all original writing, but somebody's really amazing. Because I can possibly write a short thin book, but writing something like this, that's insane. You better be a CISS, what do you call it? My brain's not working anymore.
CCIE?
CCIE, at least. So anything else I can touch on? When's it? Who's taking the next test out of this group?
I'm August 28th.
All right, you have plenty of time. Oh, how you feeling?
I started studying and taking boot camps over 10 years ago.
Oh my!
And yes, I am unemployed right now, and it's just, yeah. And I figured, you know what? The longer I sit here and not schedule the test, the more I'm going to sit here and procrastinate because I'm great at that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
being unemployed, it definitely helped me to free my mind. Because if I was coming home with all the crap that I had faced on a day and day, my job, I would never ever been able to pull this off. There's anybody that can do this in their spare time is, I mean, you guys are really. It's a. I have no words for people that can do that. I couldn't have that. I didn't have that much brain capacity to pull that off.
Ani, how many pages are in the official study guide?
I don't know.
Sorry, is that for me? Is that a question for me?
Yeah. How many pages are in it? The official study guide.
Let me check just a second.
All right, no problem. I'm going to check mine.
So when you say till the end, including appendix, it's about just a second.
1,167.
Oh, which edition do you have?
I have the 10th edition, the newest
one.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for comparison, the Cisco book is 1,185, so it will be that thick.
Oh, okay, just a few pages more. So this is 1,167. So that's why I'm saying it's really bulky. Essentially, I'm not sure how you can cover this in a month, or maybe you read it fast. I don't know.
I can tell you guys this book has beat me up, and it continues to beat me up. But I'm starting to grasp more of it. Good chunks of it are kind of dry, but just got to keep hacking away at it.
Sorry, Peter, did you say you read the books 3 times? Because I think I believe
I didn't read that book 3 times.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I read the one. These were condensed to 120 pages for each domain from the class. Those I read 3 times because I've got at least 3 times.
Okay, makes sense. Okay.
So this one I was reading parts of them just to to fill in the blanks, but mainly it was the chapel book that I read. I'm sorry,
I think I'll be
not
confident if I read it 2 times.
Yeah, I couldn't have pulled that off. I'm not the so the destination CISSP book I meant to say.
Hey, Peter, did you remember any questions from the code of ethics from this?
Yes, there was the code of ethics was on there at least once or twice. And all you really have to do is just read those first 4 lines and remember a couple of the keywords so you know which one is, whether it's first, second, third, or fourth. Because they will ask you which one is it, first, second, third, or fourth. So yeah.
It's in the test exams. I'm sorry, in the mock exams that we're doing now, they asked a question where they asked which one of the code of ethics would a certain scenario apply to, and it totally. Matter of fact, let me bring it up to the group because, matter of fact, you guys can carry on. Let me find this real quick. It did not make any sense to me as why they chose this particular code of ethics for this answer.
Because I think the first, all right, there's a preamble, which goes into what they're talking about. And then there's the canons. There's 4 canons. So there's two different parts: the preamble, the canons, two parts there, and then on canons there's 4 different steps. The first one talks about human safety, social safety, something like that. The last one is to continue to better the environment. So in between,
I don't know which one you're looking at. The canons are ISC2 members are expected to do the following. So here's the 4, and this is exactly how it was on the test. Protect society, common good, necessity, public trust, confidence, and infrastructure. That's number 1. I only remembered it as protect society and common good. You don't need the rest. Second one is act honorably, honestly, justify responsibility, and legally. I only remembered it as act honorably. Number 3 was provide diligent and competent services to principals. Again, I remembered it as, being diligent. That was my keyword. And number 4 was advance and protect the profession. And I remember just profession as the 4th one. So if that's all you're going to need to know for the test for these guys. I don't know why it doesn't match what you just said, which is really weird.
Yeah, I can't find the exact question, but I remember the gist of it. It gave you a scenario where this CIO, whatever, worked for a bank, and there was a known hacker out there that contacted the CIO and said, hey, I know of some new vulnerabilities that's coming out. If you give me the latest, techniques that you guys are using to prevent hackers, I'll give you the latest techniques that we're using, right? And then it says that which one of the code of ethics would be broken if the CIO agrees with this guy and exchanges information.
The third one.
Let's see. What's the third one? Provide diligent and confidential. That's what I thought. That's what I chose. But if I remember correctly, I know for sure that wasn't the answer. That's exactly what I chose. because the CIO is working for the bank. So that's the one I immediately went to. It said, I think the answer was.
It's not the first one.
Protect society, act honorably, honestly. Yeah, they chose the first one.
What?
The first one was the answer.
It's a bank, so how can I see human safety? And see, when I think of human safety, I think of fires.
I guess. Necessary public trust. It totally threw me.
I think that's the only question that was straight up asked without any gymnastics like the other questions were. This one was straight up. Is like, what's the second canon? You just got to pick it.
I hope they ask it straightforward like that. Because that question, I'm still a little baffled at the answer, because in essence, what I'm gathering, the answer can cover maybe 1 or 2, but the answer that they gave on that particular question, they're saying was the most correct, and I still don't understand. So, anyways, thanks.
If you get a chance, can you send that to me when you find it, and just so I can?
Yeah. If it's one of these thing. There's not a search feature for me to go through, but
no problem.
If I pull it up, I'll definitely bring it up in the next.
Because vocabulary is. I'm a math and science guy. Vocabulary, English have been my worst. And I think I've expressed this several times before. It's like when they talk about standard guidelines, policies, procedures, it's like, to me, they're all the same thing.
Oh, no. They're not. You got to dig down deeper. Yeah.
Me.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. I got to drop, but congratulations again, Peter. And
thank you, sir.
If I find that question, I'll bring it up on the next.
I'm happy to help anybody
Thanks, Paul.
else.
I appreciate that. Any burning desires?
Anyway.
Thanks, Peter. Have a good day.
Okay, do the same. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, Peter. Congrats again.
Thank you again.
Congratulations.
Yeah, nice meeting you all. Take care.
Thank you.
I just have one question for you before I hang up here.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Congratulations also.
Thank you.
When you say the app that you were doing the night before, which one is that?
There's only one. If you Google for ISC2 in
their app.
Yeah, their app.
Okay, because I have a couple other apps, so I can't remember whose they are.
It is theirs. Yeah, I mean, as far as test questions go, it was great. It really does give you a good feel for knowing the material that you read through the books. And like I said, the first time that I took the test, I did probably like 8 of the 120 questions. So they give you the entire blocks, right? You can take 120 questions that cover all 8 domains. There's so many different ways you can mix up those questions there. You can take practice tests. You can do flashcards. You can do everything with these things. Another thing you can do is directed question, and you can set how many questions you want directed. So for the second time I took it, I only tested myself by using 50 questions for each domain, and I wanted to get anywhere over 70%.
Okay.
And that was enough, because if you think about the test is only going to give you like barely 10 questions per domain. So odds are, if you can hold yourself at 70% for 50, that should get you over the top for 10 questions on the domain.
Okay.
But what I just but that just gives you a good feel for that you know the material. What's difficult on the test is understanding the question, because it's not based in the real world, so they're not like real questions sometimes. And then trying to match up the answers to a question that you don't fully understand either. That's the challenge.
Okay.
You know, so be prepared for that. I still haven't seen any test questions anywhere other than maybe the example I provided a second ago for DNS, you know, where it's not worded like it should be.
Okay.
Most of my questions, I would say 80% of them on this test were like that. That's why this one was nothing like my first one. I on the first test that I took, I kind of, when folks asked me, so how do you think you did? I said, I honestly, when I took the test, I thought I passed it. I was surprised I failed it because the questions weren't difficult. This one was horrible.
Oh, wow.
I didn't understand the questions. They were not rooted in reality. You know, they were, you know, if you ask me for, you know, if your computer doesn't start, what should you do? Question 1, throw it out the window. Number 2, reboot it. Now, you know, I would say, yeah, kick it. And I would say, yeah, reboot it is most likely the answer, because I understand the question. I understand what's happening. When I don't understand the question, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's how this test went.
Wow.
You know, so yeah. So I think you have to know the material so well. I'm not saying that I do, but then that you can apply your knowledge of the concepts to these fake questions and go, all right, I think I know what they're asking for. I'm not sure. And then just go start eliminating the ones that are most absurd, and hopefully you get to 2.
Okay.
You know, and then you have to rule out the one that's absurd out of those 2. And that's sometimes hard when you don't understand the answers too, because that's how they word them. You know, because they're not asking you straight questions, and they're not giving you straight answers that you have to answer the question with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Peter, that's exactly right. I mean, if you know that, you can easily answer the question, or take some 30 seconds or one minute, right? But if you don't know, right, your brain itself like taking so much time to like think what has to be done, right? And that itself is taking more than 2 minutes for me in the first exam.
I did better on this one because I gauged myself and I kept pace with how much time I allotted for myself.
Yeah.
So I knew to the minute where I was. You know, if I needed to pick up pace or I gave myself enough room. So 18 minutes per section is where I was. You know, 1.8 minutes per question. You know, that was, some questions took more, some questions I was like, oh yeah, that's B, boom. So I just saved all the time from my last question that maybe took me 2.5 minutes, you know. So, but I always knew at the end of every 10 questions where I stood in the big scheme of things, because I always did the math on the time, subtracted where I was from where I started, and I knew, all right, I just kept on gauging myself for finishing at right around 100 questions, you know. Again, going by Chris's recommendation that you're going to pass or fail this thing at 100. So what's the point of trying to take 150?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, hopefully, I'm hoping that every one of you here is going to, when we hit question 101, you're going to go, congratulations. I didn't see that. So who knows? Those blow off questions that I did, those last 15, maybe that's what got me over the top. I don't know. We'll never know because they don't give you the answers, you know.
That's true, but I've seen people post other numbers, you know, on that one Reddit where they say past the 150. I've seen them say that too.
You know, if you can do 150 questions on this test, you're an extraordinary person. Yeah, you're a speed reader, and two, you can comprehend this crazy material.
Yeah.
Either that, or they just gave you some really easy questions, like I got on my first test. You know, I wouldn't say they were easy because I didn't pass it, obviously, but they were a lot easier to understand. This one was just not. This one was not rooted in the real world at all. And on top of it, 80% of these questions were managerial.
Yeah, like
not
they were
technical.
said, yeah.
You know, it's like you're in charge of a global organization. The building's on fire. What do you do? I'm like, and here's your
save Bob, or do you save Alice?
Yeah, well, no. And then I give you 4 policy choices. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm actually on the destination area, and they have. I'm seeing several different things. I'm seeing the master class, the sample class videos, the guidebook.
Destination CISSP. It just came out. I mean, 2024 April.
Is it deskcert.com?
I put a link to it on my my thing where here's what I did to prep for the test. Right. The link for the book is there.
Right.
And it'll take you right to the AWS website where the book is. Right. I'm sorry, Amazon. I say AWS because I've supported AWS for so many years.
Close enough.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go back into DevOps, which is another reason that prompted me to do this certification.
That makes sense.
You know, I've been doing deployments so long, I'm like, there's got to be, you know, I wanted to do something. I enjoy networking. I really do. I like network troubleshooting, you know. I've worked as an IT manager. I've done everything as a grunt. I've installed firewalls, you know. I like working with firewalling. I like SonicWall the best. And I can trunk and tags. Huh?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. SonicWall, yeah.
I love
when
SonicWall.
They had the enhanced OS.
Oh gosh, man! I have one in my living room. This is what our entire apartment is firewalled with, a SonicWall. You know, so I love SonicWall. I tried to apply for them, but then, you know, they're thumbing their nose at me. So maybe I look, you know, I've got like 4 more years before I can retire, but I'm hoping this is going to be my last gig, and I'd like to go out on top with CISSP and just do network troubleshooting and do that kind of stuff and not do DevOps. Oh, developers will drive you crazy. I hope none of you is a developer.
So here's something here's something you might be able to relate to, Peter. Back when I worked for AT&T during the training session, one of the questions was, if you were to be a part of a car, what part would you be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Probably the tires, because they make you stick to the ground. Without good tires, you're not going anywhere.
Engine?
I don't know.
Is it engine?
What was that?
Is the engine?
That's what I chose, because you have the crankshaft, you have the camshaft, you have the air fuel mixture ratio, you have the spark plugs, you have everything has to be working just in unison in order for the engine to run. And if one of those things are off, it's not performing the way it should be. It's not efficient.
You know, the engine has to have at least an 8.5 to 1 compression ratio. It has to have a spark plug if you're using spark ignition and not compression ignition, which is what a diesel is.
Diesel, yep.
And it has to be 32 degrees before top dead center, timed on a 360-degree crankshaft. And then you have to have at least a good 14 to 1 air fuel mixture. If you have those 3 things and a good battery, that car has no choice but to start.
So, and that's the stuff that I like, because I hated cars my dad would say, "Oh, let's go change the oil." I'm like, "No, let's wash the car." No, no. And then in freshman year, there was a mechanical drafting, and the second semester was auto. Right, and I took it for the mechanical drafting, and then got into the auto, and definitely, yeah, changed my viewpoint on a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm a gearhead, but I've always saw life from the motorcycle, not from a car. So I like everything. I love two-stroke engines. You know, those things were amazing, and too bad that EPA killed them. They're still the best thing to me since sliced bread, but you know, it's not the engine because it's like my watch, right? I have a mechanical watch. My hobby is to restore mechanical watches, believe it or not. So mechanical watches to me there's nothing better. It will always take time. It may slip a couple seconds, but it's always going to tell your time. So I love mechanical things. It's not the fault of the internal combustion engine that it's dirtying the atmosphere. It's the fault of the fuel. They need to, as soon as they figure out a better fuel, then all the mechanical engines are still going to be happy going down the road. We don't need to go down the route of electric cars. You know, we just haven't solved the kind of fuel that they burn. So inside of a diesel, which is a compression ignition engine, you can burn most anything. I mean,
Yeah,
you can throw a dead cat in there, and if it has enough, calories, it'll burn and it'll ignite. And our economy is never going to get off of diesel anyway,
because diesel's what, almost 20 to 1.
Diesel's about 20 to 1. You can push it. You can push it to 24 to 1, but it doesn't run it. That's exceeding the mechanics, the mechanical aspect of the engine. They're generally around 20 to 1. 24 is at the max, right? But that's generally around there. And it's a compression ignition engine. It doesn't have a spark. You can do a nice little test for yourself. If you have a sealed chamber like a tube, and you drill a hole at the end. And you can actually use this for camping. So my camping tip, and you put a wick in there. Could be any wick. It doesn't need to be. You can just clip the end of a candle wick, put it in there. Just drill a hole in there, and you take a plunger. And if you smash the plunger and you've compressed all the air in there, you're going to get ignition. That's exactly how a diesel works on every single stroke.
Friction. And just the glow plug, and then eventually.
Well, you don't need the glow plug. The glow plug is there just to warm the oil, because you're really igniting oil.
All right.
So if you want to put out a fire, and you have a bucket of diesel, just throw it on the fire. It'll go out. I showed my wife that. She was freaking out. She says, "Oh, you better stand back. It's going to ignite." I said, I can take a bucket of this stuff, and I did, and I threw it on the fire, and it took the fire out. It's oil; it doesn't burn. What you're doing is you're igniting it from compression. That's what you're turning from nothing to 2,000 degrees. The compression of air and nothing. It's just air, and then anything you put in there will ignite.
We have very similar backgrounds. So, but I'm going to go ahead and get off. And I don't know if Vincent's told you, I'm going to be doing the check-ins next week.
Oh, cool. Check-ins for all week?
No, just Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday to start with.
Okay.
That way, because it starts off my morning good and usually gets me kind of amped, and not amped, but gets me in the right frame of mind.
And those are at 10 a.m., right?
Depends on where you're at.
10 or 11, right? So 10 Central, 11 Eastern, right? Or is that the other way around?
10, 9. So I think they're 8 here.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'm on Pacific.
And I attended one or two of them. They're geared around resumes, right? Resume writing.
I haven't figured out what I'm going to make the topic, but mainly at least, hey, what are we working on today, and what do we hope to achieve today?
Oh, okay. I could use that. I'll try to pop in.
And yeah, it's going to be more job oriented. However, when I first start off, it's just getting the repetition going.
Super. at the end of the day, this is all about getting a job, and that's what I need right now. So that's where my focus is right now.
So, yeah. All right, well, everybody, appreciate your time, and I'm gonna go ahead and log off, and you guys have a great day.
Okay. Everyone enjoy.
See you.
Thanks. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye bye.